up, everybody? Dirty and
DZAN. What is going on, everybody? It is May 26th, 2021, Thursday, Friday, Wednesday? What the fuck is today? Wednesday.
It's Wednesday for us. It's Friday
Wednesday for us, Friday for you, you lovely bastards out there.
Hey, speaking of lovely bastards, thank you everybody that chimed in on the top 10 list. We are going to be doing one today, but quite honestly, it was kind of a struggle to pick a topic. So we decided to go with our top 10 favorite rock / metal bands of all time. Just as though on this channel here, DZAN is definitely the authority on rap and hip hop. I'll probably be adding a lot more to the rock side of this thing. But DZAN's definitely got some people he wants to shout out to. There's some bands as well. So we're both going to do our top 10. I'm going to tell you, I'm going to warn you guys right up front, and we're not going to do this right away, but I just wanted to give everybody a heads up here. My list is going to be very, very, I'm probably going to get a lot of pushback on my list because as we did with the rappers in hip hop top 10, this is more of our favorite top 10. This isn't who we would classify as the greatest bands of all time. We may do that down the road, or maybe even do a rap artist down the road where we rank who we think the top 10 are. But that first one was just our favorite top 10, which is what this is going to be for the rock metal side of stuff. But before we get into that, DZAN, would you like to speak here?
Yeah, man, I think first and foremost, I know we missed it by one day, but first things first, May 25th, the 1 year anniversary of George Floyd. So just rest in peace, George. We never forget the names that change history, and you're one of them. So I just wanted to make sure I get that out the way before we get into any topics. But all right, man, we got some MMA shit to get into. First of all, UFC Vegas 27, Dirty and DZAN ended up both 3-3. You know what? It was looking good for me to begin with. Got 3 points in a row. And I thought to myself, as soon as the podcast starts, I'm going to do this and I'm going to say redemption, bitch. Didn't happen. Didn't happen. It went downhill.
You should have did. Surprise, surprise, motherfucker.
Yeah, surprise, surprise. That's right. That's right. But none of that happened. No, because the last three did not go my way. So yeah, I mean, Cody looked good, but Rob looked better. And I didn't think Rob was the better striker, but man, jab runs everything.
Listen, man, this is just the typical UFC stuff here, but the last thing that I want to do is get on here and talk about, Cody and where his game is at and all of that stuff, because quite frankly, Cody looked great.
Yeah,
he did. Rob Font looked phenomenal.
Yeah.
That was the difference here. It was
Rob had answers, man. Rob had answers.
He really did. And, I know he joked around, asked for a title shot and all of that. And I know Dana rolled his eyes and rightfully so, but it's a guy to keep your eye on.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, when you look at that division, there's a lot of killers in that division. So, but Rob Font, man, what a fucking performance. I honestly thought that Cody was going to be able to pick him apart and even wrestle the fuck out of him. But he got the fuck up and he jabbed him to death, man. It was a great fight. First fight of the night. I mean, we know we got way the fuck ahead of ourselves, but Jack Hermanson, woo, what a performance. If anybody wants to know what a 10-8 round is, go ahead and watch that fight. That is a 10-8 and a well-deserved dominance from my man, the Joker, I love this kid. I followed him and Jared Cannonier during the same time that they both entered the UFC. And when they clashed together, it was so hard choosing between the two, you know, when they had their fight. But yeah, I don't ever go against Jack. I don't ever go against Jared unless they're fighting each other. Like I said before, they're like two of my favorite fighters. I love them so much.
Right
What a
on.
performance. I
Hey,
thought it was
speaking of
horrible
which,
matchmaking.
yeah, I agree with that. But speaking of which, also, DZAN and I, we talked about this earlier in the week, but I believe our next topic just may be top 10 favorite UFC fighters of all time.
Yes. Yes. Oh yeah. That's going to
I
be
wanted
a
to squeeze
real
that in
fun
there
one.
because
Yes.
even though it was something we talked about privately, you know, I think that's just a great way to go here, and I think the people here will love that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's definitely going to be interesting because again, this would be our top 10 favorites.
Right. Top
So
10 favorite. Yeah.
that's going to make things very interesting. But I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh man, I cannot wait to talk shit about your list and vice versa.
Yeah.
The Felicia Spencer, man, Felicia Spencer losing to Dumont. I was going for Dumont, but I thought Felicia was gonna look a little bit better.
She looked terrible, quite frankly.
Yeah, yeah,
And I didn't see that coming. I clearly because I picked her.
yeah, yeah.
Boy, did not see that coming.
Yeah.
But that again, here we are. I mean, this is UFC. This happens. You know, I mean, I can't tell you how many times we've seen someone who just not show up, and
Yep.
it happens, and who knows why, but it happens. You know, it is what it is.
Yeah, and our boy Tafa taking the decision L as well in that
That was
one.
tough.
That was one hell of a fight though too, and
Yes.
it could have gone either way, I believe. But you know, I'm not mad at that decision. It's
No,
not
I
a bad
think they got
decision.
it right, but it
Yeah,
was very close.
very close. And then Carla Esparza making a fucking statement.
Yes, she did.
Woo! And look, guys, yeah, and first of all, I apologize so much for last week. She shine on. It's Xiaonan.
Oh,
It's
yeah,
Yan Xiaonan.
yeah.
Had I heard it, I would have known who the fuck
We
she
both,
was.
yeah, we
But just
both-
reading it,
yeah.
yeah, my apologies. But she's a tough fucking fighter. And I thought she would give one hell of a fight. If not win, give one hell of a fight. And Carla just dominated, got her down, submitted her, and then called out called out Thug Rose herself because
She sure did.
she beat her before. Why not call her out again?
I question whether that will repeat itself, but
Agreed.
nevertheless, she has every right to call her out. So
Yep. So, I mean, that was Vegas 27. You guys, there is no fight card this weekend.
Right.
So, no Vegas 28
Rarely.
this weekend. We rarely have bye weeks in the fight game. This is our bye week. I fucking hate bye weeks, but you know, they happen. But after this, it's the big UFC event. So next week we'll be talking about the big one. We got Nate coming up and the two title fights coming up. Oh yeah. I'm really excited for Nate and Leon Edwards. I wasn't at first when we first heard it.
Time coming.
But the closer we get to it, man, I'm like, whoo.
Yeah, this
I'm
has
excited.
been a long time coming here. I mean, they've been threatening this fight for a while, and
Yeah.
they finally booked it. I'm a stoked, man. But man, I tell you what, it's gonna be so good to have Nate back.
Yeah, yeah. Nate
Spoiler
Diaz,
alert,
man.
Nate Diaz is gonna be in my top 10. So
Oh yeah. I mean, come on, man. Nate fucking Diaz, bro. He's one of the best to come off of tough.
man, fuck
And-
that Irishman.
Fuck that Irishman. Big thing. Oh, you know what? Number 9 ranked Paul Felder retired. And it was sad to see
Was it?
Paul. It was for me, not for you. You fuck, you cold-hearted
Wow.
fuck.
Wow. Hey, man, listen. I got respect. I got mad respect Anybody that steps inside that cage, I don't think I could do it. But it's just he's just one of those personalities I just don't vibe with, man. I can't. Joanna Young Jacek, Paul Felder.
Why is Joanna?
Caitlin-
Why did Joanna just get thrown in there?
uh,
You don't like Joanna?
No, I don't. She gets on my nerves, man.
Oh my God. The boogie woman is coming for you, Dirty.
Yeah.
Keep talking that shit.
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm sitting like. Yeah, no,
But you know what? He's had one hell of a career, and most of his losses were split decisions. So he's one hell of a fighter, and he can go out knowing that the Dan Hooker fight would always be burned in my brain, and people can say Dan won. I think it was the other way around.
It was
taking 5 days short notice.
Close.
Oh, it was close. All right,
like
people,
Nate
we're
fan.
gonna be playing the.
You
No,
sound
not
like a Nate fan, and Connor Nate too.
never.
That's exactly the way it was. It was the exact same thing. There was a clear and obvious winner in that fight. It was Dan Hooker. But hey, listen, the guy can take a punch just as good as anybody. Beautiful.
You're so condescending.
It was intended.
You know what? I wish him the best. He's one hell of a commentator.
I do.
So
I'm just fucking around here, you guys. I got a lot of respect for Paul Felder, and yeah, he does get on my nerves sometimes. But the fact of the matter is, anybody that steps in that cage is a better man than me. So can't hate on that.
Tough is coming back.
Yes, it is.
June 1st.
Yes, it is. We got.
By the time I wanted to get it out now because it wasn't going to be back, by the time the next one came out, it would already be on. So
have been announced.
Woo.
Yes.
I saw the launch party yesterday on ESPN Plus. Oh my God. I'm so excited. That got me so hyped. It got me so hyped. I'm so fucking excited. I wasn't excited. I wasn't excited before. Since 2018. So it's been 3. It's felt like a lot longer.
3.
Yeah. 2018 is when they came back. And then I think before that, it was like a 2-year hiatus.
Oh, that's
then
right.
they came back, and then it's been another 3 years. So, I mean, really, you could say about 5 or 6, right? But
now,
they did have their.
Is that only on Fight Pass like it was before?
No, so that'll be on ESPN Plus now. It's going to be coming on every Tuesday at 9 p.m. your time.
Yeah, that's right.
Yep.
I forgot about
9 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. whatever my time. So
right
really excited for that, man. It's gonna be exciting. I wasn't excited for it whenever they first sent out the names because, to be honest, I had a couple more in my head that I was thinking Masvidal Covington or something like that would have been really good to watch. Yes, would have been amazing to watch. Could you imagine? But you know what? This is it's looking good. It's looking really good.
Dana was asked about it, and apparently there have already been some fireworks and whatnot. So yeah, they said we've already had a lot of drama. Yeah. I'm excited, man. Yeah, and these guys look great too. It's going to be really fun, and I can't wait to talk about it next week after the first episode. Hair?
Yeah.
Kind of
I like that
of Clay Guida a little bit.
Right? Yeah, he does have that.
Looking though.
The guy with the ugly man. That had brain damage. I mean, there's some really interesting stories, man. And that's the one thing that I really missed about, Tough. That's what the one thing you really love about Tough. Gave you the stories. Versus the Contender Series. Yeah.
Series, right. Yeah.
Right.
I much prefer this. There's more fireworks, there's more drama.
Yep.
And then there's all of that buildup before they finally fight at the end. And it's just a great formula for TV. So
Yep. 1000%. I mean, the last thing really I wanted to talk about when MMA is Diego Sanchez and Joshua Fabia.
Finally. It's too late, but at least it happened.
Let me ask you this. Did you hear?
If you don't know what we're talking about, he's talking about his trainer, manager, whatever you want to call
life
him.
Coach. Yeah.
Diego finally broke ties with him.
He
Obviously,
broke. No, go
obviously,
ahead, please.
well, I was just going to say,
Go ahead.
obviously he's, um, done this thing where it's taken him out of the UFC at this point. However, at least he did it.
Yeah.
At least he saw the light. Somebody got a hold of him somewhere. Wouldn't be surprised if it weren't Dana, quite frankly.
hmm
He probably told him, listen, man, that guy's dragging your whole life down.
Yeah. Did you hear the interview that Joshua had? What he had to say about Diego?
I did. Yeah. You mean all the shit talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my God. It's so ugly. I mean, that tells you everything you ever needed to know about the guy.
Yeah.
He as soon as Diego parted ways with him, he just lambastes him. He lays him out there, puts all his shit on blast, and yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
All he did was show his true colors.
absolutely. Yeah. I mean, if we look at the timeline, just after, they broke ties or whatever, I think the next day, Diego tweeted, sometimes you have to look hard in the mirror to see yourself clearly. I had a lot of hard truths that I've had to look at. And those were his quote. That's what he said. And then Joshua comes out and through all this shit that he was saying, okay, to recap everything, I have the audio here, but it would sound like shit trying to play it through the mic. Um, all the shit that he was saying throughout there about Diego, and him being special needs, him taking steroids to win a high school college or a high school wrestling match, not being a good father, all this shit, having sexual abuse issues that he hasn't talked about. There's a certain, you have a relationship from coach to student. That's a certain bond. And no matter what happens in the relationship, TJ and Uriah would never, anything that they disclosed personally when, with that bond, no matter all the drama they went through, they're not going to go and saying that kind of personal shit that they've opened up about.
Yeah, you talking about that? What's his name that left with TJ?
Yeah, Dwayne Ludwig. Yeah,
Dwayne Ludwig. Yeah,
yeah. I mean, that wouldn't happen
as
there.
ugly as that got, and that got very ugly.
Very, very ugly.
At least that never happened.
Right. It was professional. When looked at the fight game, it's professional, but they didn't get dirty like that. There's just that certain bond you have with your coach, with that person, and whether a lot of the shit he was saying is true or not,
right.
I have a big issue with you, one, saying that a red flag that he has special needs, whether he is or not. There's a lot of fucking normal people that take special education, It's absolutely ridiculous. And then second, to even bring up sexual abuse, that's one of the, the deepest, darkest things that you could think a person could probably share with you. And for you to, really disregard that and put that shit on blast again, whether it's true or not, it's fucked up in every sense of the word. And he's even more of a piece of shit than anybody ever thought, and poor Diego. That's what we keep saying. Poor Diego. I mean, fucking A, man.
Well, yeah. And listen, we've all seen this play out before where somebody comes out and, admits to some kind of impropriety when they were young with an uncle or an aunt, whatever. And we do our best in this day and age, at least. It's gotten a lot better. But you do your best to not make that person feel uncomfortable about talking about it.
Right.
Some people, they go through 10 years of therapy before they can ever even discuss it in public.
Yep.
And here this guy just puts all of Diego's business out there.
Mm-hmm.
Clearly it wasn't Diego's idea. It was very personal to him. It didn't happen to Joshua. It happened to Diego. So it's for Diego to spill. But I go back to my original statement. Now we see on full display Joshua's true colors, and you can rest assured that at least one person in this world is going to be a little bit wiser to this guy. So when they get around him, they're going to avoid him. And I'm going to go on a limb and say most people will probably avoid him at this point.
I would fucking hope so, man. I would fucking hope so.
That. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that in the end, this will work out very well. Unfortunately, it came at the expense of Diego Sanchez's privacy.
Yep. His privacy, his career, his future in MMA. I mean, this dude took everything from Diego. And well, I'd really hate to see Diego end up. Go ahead.
Let's be careful here, though, because the reality is Diego let this happen too.
True.
And
true.
You know, I never like to blame the victim. But I don't know how much of a victim Diego has been in this, because he was told by many people along the way, get away from that guy.
Yeah.
And he did.
Yep.
And then he ends up losing his contract with the UFC over this guy, and still stayed with him at least for a couple more weeks.
Mm-hmm.
So to let Diego completely off the hook here, I don't know that's the way to go either.
Yeah.
You know? So
I would just hate to see him end up in like bare knuckle fighting or some, you know, some other promotion where it's just not going to be better for him. I don't know, man.
He's never made that Conor McGregor money, that John Jones money. He's never had those opportunities. So he's clearly, he needs to work.
Yep.
He doesn't have fuck you money. So I don't think. Doesn't seem like it.
No, I don't think so either. Not according to Josh. Apparently.
That too. Yeah.
I'm trying to think if I not forgetting anything else. Is there anything else you have for
not for UFC, but while you're getting your shit together there, it's about time. I'm gonna go ahead and talk. I'm gonna go ahead and talk a little bit of hockey here.
Go for it.
We got game 5 last night of Carolina versus Nashville, and Carolina beat them in overtime again. Or no, I'm sorry, that one didn't go to overtime, but the past 2 games have gone into double overtime. And both of those games were won by Nashville. Unfortunately, Peter Mrazek has yet to find his way in net, which really surprised me, quite frankly, especially after game 3. They lost 4-3 in double overtime. And then game 4, they lost 5-4 in overtime. So he gave up 5 goals. I thought for sure we would have saw Peter Mrazek in, but Rob Brindamore left Alex Nedeljkovic in goal. It worked out for him last night. They did win, I think, 3-1. Tampa Bay is now up 3-2 as well over Florida. I'm really hoping that Florida can beat them in game 6 in Tampa, because that means game 7 comes back here. And here is about a half hour north of Lauderdale. And Lauderdale is where they play. So I would love to be able to catch a game 7, even though neither one's my favorite team. Still,
but just to go, right?
7 in the playoffs in the NHL, it's just a dream thing here. But Edmonton Oilers got swept. Connor McDavid, arguably the greatest player in the game right now. It's between him and Austin Matthews, really. But they got swept in the first round. I'm not surprised. They took on Ken Holland as their general manager. Ken Holland was the general manager in Detroit before Steve Yzerman came along, and I have had my fill of Ken Holland.
You're over that?
And I'm so glad he's gone. And I cannot believe that Edmonton took him on as the general manager. Quite frankly, he's never done anything. Yes, Detroit won 3 Stanley Cups with him at the helm. However, the moves that were made while he was at the helm were done by Scotty Bowman, who is the coach, and the players that came in to play for Scotty Bowman. Had nothing to do with Ken Halen. Ken Halen's fingerprints were nowhere near that team that won those Stanley Cups. After Scotty Bowman left, it took a shit. And it was just flushing down, and it was each year that passed, the flush was getting harder and faster. And for whatever reason, Edmonton decided to hire him. And if you notice Edmonton, and I'm guessing we're not reaching too many people in Edmonton, Edmonton, Alberta. I'm going to tell you, you have everything coming to you that's coming. The guy is proven nothing. In all of the years he's been in the NHL, he's proven nothing. What really rubbed me the wrong way initially with Ken Halen is he seemed to be bound and determined to get fighting out of the game of hockey. And thank goodness cooler heads prevailed. And there's a reason why there's fighting in hockey. And a lot of people don't understand this. But I'm going to school you real quick. I'll give you the 101 version of it. So let's say a guy is up against the boards and somebody comes and hits him from behind. He face plants into the boards, loses 5 or 6 teeth. So what's going to happen here if you take hockey out of the game? They're going to give the guy a 5-minute major, and he may get suspended for a game or 3, depending on who the person is. However, that's not much of a deterrent. And does the punishment fit the crime? This guy is missing teeth, 5 or 6 teeth, for the rest of his life.
Mm-hmm.
The subject in question missed 3 games from suspension. They don't add up.
Right, right.
So the reason that fighting exists in hockey is for reasons like that. And until that nonsense where you're cross-checking a guy from behind and all of that stuff is taken out of the game, which I don't know how that can possibly happen. But unless or until that happens, you have to have fighting in hockey. Otherwise, that stuff is going to go on a lot more. It's going to get even more violent because they look at it as, hey, I can take out their best player for the rest of this playoff series. And, you know, and what happens a lot of times is they'll send out a 4th line player to do that.
Yeah, because they're just going to get a fucking suspension. And yeah.
And who cares if a 4th line player gets suspended versus, you know, taking
the first
out,
string or
you know, Austin Matthews in Toronto, or Patrick Kane in Chicago, or Sebastian Aho in Carolina, and so on. Is that the deterrent? No, it's not a deterrent. So fighting has to remain in the game of hockey. And it's for that reason. You're going to have to answer for what you did. And that has kept a lot of people in check for a great many years. But the more they've tried to take hockey out of the game, or fighting out of the game of hockey, the more that kind of stuff has ramped up. And it's scientifically proven. The numbers tell you the story. Those cheap shots have gone up exponentially since they started to try to get rid of fighting.
Right.
It's not rocket science, man. So anyway, we're still in the first round of playoffs, but we're nearing the end here. We'll be done with the first round, I believe, Sunday or Monday. So
how many teams are left right now? Is it 8 or 4?
16.
Shit. Okay, so first round of playoffs.
Round. Yep.
Got you. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Nice. All right, cool.
Yeah. So
got to keep us updated on that.
Of course I will.
All right, you ready to get into some music?
Let's get into
before we hit our top 10. There's a few things to hit.
Absolutely. Let's do that.
All right. So first of all, we'll get the singles of the week out of the way. Singles of the week is AK, Ack, The Real AK, Candyland. kind of a different single for him, but I really, really liked it. And the more I listened to it, the more it grew on me. So Candyland by Ack, another big one from Token. This one actually had a hook, but it was a very short hook. Chit Chat. Token, man, Token is one of these rappers that I love and hate at the same time. I kind of hate the guy. I kind of hate the guy because he's really in your face about trolling, and he's really in your face about being different and being weird. Instead of just being different and being weird, he's kind of in your face about it. That's what I kind of don't like. But I also really love what he's doing, and I really love his rap. His bars are so clean. They've gotten so much better, and he released the music video with the song. Anybody listen, do not get high before you watch that music video, or you're going to wonder whether you really watched that music video or if you were just thinking of shit while you were watching that music video. It's very fucking weird. He's been a little weird before, but this is way out there. But it's a very addictive flow, which I really like to hear from Token. Overall, great track. I've been listening to it all week, along with the third and last single of the week, Tech 9, coming out with a new song, Kick It Her. And I think it's featuring Showdown, I think is his name. Tech 9 is known for having these weird name tracks. It's okay. They don't have to be inviting. Just turn it on and you're just going to be bumping that shit. It kind of reminded me a lot of the Special Effects album, wherein the final track, and I'm trying to remember the name of the track. Can't remember, but he did a collaboration with this dude that does dubstep, and it was very, very electronic dub kind of feel to it. Very rave party feel, but dope track. So those are the 3 singles of the week. And then, as you know, go ahead.
Well, I just wanted to add one quick thing there. I didn't know this, but the latest Peloton commercial, that song that they're playing in there is the Gorillaz. It's a song called Dare. I did not know that.
Interesting. I'll have to watch that. I don't think I caught that.
Yeah. It's pretty wild, and it's got the Gorillaz, their production is always just top notch. And whether you like the song or you don't, if it's a little too on the hip hop side of stuff, it's still sonically incredible. It really is. I was listening to it the other day because I forgot how I found out about it. A news feed came in. It was one of those rabbit hole things, where one thing started another, and next thing you know, I'm
right
into it 2 hours later.
Exactly.
And I got a bunch of information I didn't know before. But so essentially, I think that's what happened. And somebody was talking about the Peloton commercial, and then I noticed in the article it said Gorillaz in there, so I said Gorillaz. So I went down and read, and it said, yeah, they're using the song called Dare. And so then I went, and I rarely do this. You can ask DZAN. I very seldom do this, but I had to go check it out. And I put it on, and the dude's got terrible teeth, but they put on the coolest videos, but the song, again, even if you don't like the flow of it or whatever, it sonically, it's incredible sounding, man. It's just they use a saw bass, and it's just 2 notes in it, but it fills the entire track each time that saw bass comes. That's
so full,
but it's so full. It just eats up all of that space. And as a producer, I can tell you, it's one of the biggest challenges is adding low end without overloading the low end, because if you overload the low end, it's going to distort,
muddy as hell.
It just sounds terrible. But somehow they got that low end to sit in there so beautifully. It sounded fantastic to me. So anyway, I just found that.
Hell yeah, I'll have to check that out now. Shit.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, I definitely have to check that out. A couple albums dropped, as you know. Nicki Minaj dropped her album. I did give it a full once over. It's pretty dope. It's not as good as
I
Queen.
gave Nicki Minaj a full once over.
Oh my god. Pretty dope, pretty dope. Young and May, Off the Yak came out, is the name of the album, Off the Yak. It was really dope, man. It was really dope. It's something that you can just bump to on a day to day. Yeah, Young and May, man. So dope. Off the Yak, really, really good. And then, of course, as everybody knows, 21 Pilots, Scaled and Icy dropped.
I've been so excited about this.
I watched the live experience. I will say there's one negative I have about it. Same negative I had about Cole's album. Not negative about this album, but the live experience was too short. It was only an hour. I thought it would be about an hour and a half to 2 hours. It was only an hour long, but still.
See, people, you can't please this fucking guy, man.
You know what? It was still filled with great songs. I really wish Dirty would have saw it because they went a whole bunch of tracks, a bunch of old tracks, a bunch of in the middle, a lot of the newer tracks. I mean, and of course they throw in the storyline of what's going on in the background. So you see a lot of weird shit in between. But man, it was heavy. It was good. And this fucking album, a lot like 21 Pilots. If you ever listen to 21 Pilots and you listen to any of their music for the first time, you're not going to be immediately hooked to it because the kind of genius that is behind the pen, I'm telling you, there is layers to this shit and you don't catch anything the first time on any of these songs, even the hooks. There's maybe one or two songs on this album that when I heard it on the first listen, I was like, oh, I really want to replay those two because the hooks is really sticking out. But everything else with 21 Pilots, the more you listen to it, the more you are loving it and loving it. And then you thought you had a favorite song and it changes just because you're listening to it more. And they've always had that weirdness about them that always kept me listening to all of their music because they all have that same feel. They trap you in and you just listen to it over and over. The album was beautiful, man. It's a masterpiece for sure. It's right up there right now with Blurryface for me for their best. I always think like Vessel and Blurryface were up there. This one's up there for me now, man, already. And I couldn't stop listening to it. So fantastic album.
Yeah, that's great. But listen, something just popped in my head that I completely forgot about. I whiffed on this one, but we have to talk about this, or I have to talk about this. So yesterday, this came as a surprise to me. Yesterday, Megadeth, the founding member of Megadeth, who's Dave Mustaine, he's the singer and primary songwriter and primarily rhythm guitar player, but he plays a lot of leads too. They parted ways with their bass player, Dave Ellison. Now, Dave Ellison is also a founding member of Megadeth. However, he left in the mid to late 90s, I believe it was. And they went through a number of roster changes in the band. Dave Ellison found his way back during the Dystopia album, which you have heard. Mm-hmm. And everything seemed to be going really, really well. And then all of a sudden, about a week and a half ago, this news story breaks out about him, apparently talking to an underage girl. Now, the facts are not all out yet. And quite frankly, the girl is really supportive and doing everything she can do to help him out. Which I think is very telling because a lot of times in situations like that, that girl's going to roll on you. But apparently, so they did hook up, but she was of age when they hooked up.
Okay.
but he was talking to her before she was of age.
Okay.
And so he didn't do anything with her apparently while she was underage, but eventually they ended up hooking up. I'm pretty sure he's married.
Okay.
And he's a Christian. And as is Dave Mustaine now these days, or a variation of Christian something, I don't know. But Dave Mustaine came out yesterday and announced that they were parting company with Dave Ellison. And quite frankly, it really surprised me that based on the facts that we have, while he should not have been talking to an underage girl, it was apparently just that. It was just talking. And while that's bad, it could have been much worse. And we've seen much, much worse than that. And people not be penalized for it. So, but nevertheless, I got to look at it as a dad, and if that were my daughter, I probably would not be too pleased.
Right.
And listen, myself, you, anybody watching this, we don't know what really happened.
Right.
Maybe there is more to the story that I don't know about, that the reporters don't know about, and maybe that's the reason that Dave Mustaine decided to part ways with Dave Ellison. But nevertheless, it is what it is, and he is no longer with Megadeth. And the dagger here for a lot of Megadeth fans, myself included, is that they have been supposed to have been releasing this new album for several months now. COVID came, that really put a damper on things. They were having a mixing problem. Dave Mustaine was diagnosed with cancer while he was tracking vocals, and so he had to redo all of that. And now people are wondering, are they going to retrack all of the bass guitar work because Dave Ellison is no longer with the band? Well, if they do that, trust me, I know what I'm talking about here. You might as well add another year onto this album release. It's going to be a year.
It's going to be a process.
He's going to have to track the guitars. They're going to have to remix everything because you can never track twice the same way. It's impossible. You got that, and then just a million reasons why this is not going to be a quick fix.
Yep.
So I'm hoping that they just leave the tracks the way they are, release the damn
just push
album.
that shit out.
We've
Yeah.
been waiting for so long now.
Right.
And
just get it out.
Yeah. And I just, if we know all of the facts, if we really do, boy, I'm not sure that a firing was warranted here, but it's not for me to decide. And again, I don't know all of the facts, so maybe there is more to it. So anyway, I just wanted to get that in there.
Nice. All right. That was it. I mean, really, a few of the tracks from Skeld and Icy that I wanted to call out. First and foremost, the last song on there. So this is an 11 track album, right up Dirty's alley. There, right there, 11 tracks. But Redecorate is that song so fucking good. It's easily my favorite on the album. And it's different for 21 Pilots in a sense that it has its own little story separate from the album story. It's based on 1 to 2 different people. If we really listen to it, I think it's 3, but it's about himself in the first verse, a female, which I'm thinking is his wife, and then just kind of a closing it up, or it could be Josh too. So not too sure, but he's talking about from a really interesting perspective of, if I'm going to kill myself, do I want to do it now and leave all of this shit like this in my room? I might want to clean up my room first, because I don't want my people to see certain things. I don't want them to know certain things. You know what I mean? And It's such a powerful way to look at it. And I mean, just the hook right off the bat saying, I don't want to go like this. At least let me clean my room. I don't want to leave it like this, because the last thing I want to do is make my people make decisions wondering what to do. Should I keep it on display or redecorate? So fucking heavy. And this is what I mean by the man behind the pin and how heavy this dude's pin is. It's he can say a million things in 3 lines, and it could be interpreted in so many different ways. And that's the mark of a genius when you're thinking about from a writing perspective. And there's very few songs that will move me emotionally, and this was one of them. The very first time I fucking heard it, and
You know,
yeah,
not to cut you off or anything, but there's going to be a couple of bands on my list that most of the people watching probably have never heard of these bands. But for that very reason, I am a fan of this particular band because it's the songwriting, and it's like you said, they can say so many things with so few words.
right.
And this person that I'm referring to is, in my opinion, the best ever at it. And it, some of the stuff that he talks about is so heavy duty.
Yeah.
And he's able to create this environment where you understand exactly what he's saying, even if he doesn't say exactly what.
Right.
Do you understand?
Right. You can feel, you almost feel the lyrics.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
You're almost reading between the lines by listening, right? You're listening between the lines. That's really what it is, man. It's an art. It's a gift. It's a fucking gift, man. But the more I listen to this album, the more favorites I find. No Chances and The Outside are 2 other big call outs. You guys have to listen to this album. Give it a listen. It's really good. But that's all I had for music. That's all I had. And I think we're ready to get into our top 10, unless you had anything else.
No, let's do this, man. I'll start it off. And I've got to do, I hate doing this, man, but I have to. I just couldn't bring myself to not do this. I have 2 honorable mentions.
Okay, I have 1. I didn't know.
Yeah, well,
I could have.
Yeah, I could have 20 honorable mentions. And just doing 2 was difficult.
Give it to me.
The honorable mentions are said band Megadeth,
Okay.
and Pink Floyd.
Oh, nice.
Pink Floyd I had to get an honorable mention in there, and quite frankly, this, for me, that I understand what DZAN was going through when he was doing the top 10 rap and hip hop ones, because I left so many bands off of this list that have every right to be on this list.
Yeah.
So my honorable mentions are Pink Floyd and Megadeth. Sorry for doing 2, but I didn't have a choice. That's
all right. I will preface this as well with saying, not only am I not, an avid listener of the metal rock genre, I wasn't born under a rock, so I do know a lot of bands. The thing is, I do want to say that I don't ever not forget the legends, the Beatles, Leonard Skinner, Queen. This is favorite. I didn't grow up in that time, right? Right. You also have to think about this too. When looking at top rappers, hip hop is such a young genre. I mean, it's like late 80s is the birth. We're talking 60s, late 50s, early 50s, for rock. It's a big genre with a lot of history and a lot of bands. So I just want to say that right out the gate too, that all of this would be right from kind of our generation of.
And I think it's worthy of pointing out the fact that rock music was born from blues music at that. So not only did rock come around in the 50s, Chuck Berry, let's not forget about Chuck Berry, everybody. Okay. We give all of this credit to Elvis and the Beatles and the Rolling Stones. Chuck Berry is the one that invented rock and roll, man. Okay. He did it. But blues music goes back to the late 1800s.
Mm-hmm.
So while yes, it does go back to the 50s, it in a way it goes back 100
Yeah.
years or
Yeah.
more. So I think that your point is very, very valid. And uh, I don't know if I agree with the late 80s. I'd have to say early 80s. I mean, because that's when Rapper's Delight came out. It was in
Right. Yeah. 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 No, you're right. You're right.
1979,
Yeah.
1980, something like
Yeah.
that. Um,
Yeah. And Dre was
but
already pretty big in
but it
85. I
did
mean,
take a
yeah.
long time before
Right.
Run DMC came along,
Right.
you know.
Yeah.
So
So my honorable mention is Oasis. They are
oh,
my
right
honorable
on.
mention. What's the Story? Morning Glory. Great album. And two of the best songs that I've ever heard are Wonderwall and Champagne Supernova. So I just want to feel right not having them at least mentioned because although it is only two really that I listen to them, it's two really, really big tracks. So
While I was not a big fan of Oasis, Noah Gallagher and his brother,
mhm.
um, they were tremendous songwriters, and
Yeah,
I got to give them that.
I just love his
They,
tone. It's such an interesting tone that you can almost sound like you're saying the same tone the whole time,
yeah,
and it just still sound really good. Yeah.
right on, right on. So, okay, so my top 10 list, I'm gonna because this is rock metal genre, I did fuse the two. Um, and it's quite an eclectic list.
Mine are
So,
very alternative, people.
yeah,
Alternative. All right.
I mean, we don't need to apologize for these. I'm
Yeah.
just letting you guys know that I tried to get a little bit of everything in there from my world.
Got you.
So
Okay.
I think that that's a big part of the reason why so many were left off of my list. But anyways, number 10, this is going to probably blow a lot of eyeballs back here. Steely Dan.
Okay.
Steely Dan is they are an incredible band. I say band, but really, truth be told, it's two guys, Walter Becker and Donald Fagen. And basically, what they did, and this goes back to when they first began in the late 60s, they would hire musicians to come in and play music that they wrote. And then they would, Donald Fagen would do the keyboards, the Wurlitzer and other type keyboards, and then Walter Becker played guitar. Donald Fagen did most of the singing, but they always brought in a horn player and a bass player and a drummer. And there are a lot of albums where they had multiple drummers, multiple bass players, multiple saxophone players. But also, Steely Dan is a very, very popular band to sample. I noticed that when I first started listening to rap and hip hop, I'm like, that's Steely Dan, and then I'm like, here's another song, that's Steely Dan.
That's Steely
Here's
Dan.
another one, there's Steely Dan. I couldn't believe how many rap and hip hop samples were done by Steely Dan or from Steely Dan. So,
Right. Right. Right.
uh, yeah, but yeah, love that band. Some of their songs are just so emotional, and I'm just strictly talking about the musicality. I'm not
Hmm.
even referring to lyrics. Um, there's a song called Peg. Peg is a very popular song from them. Deacon Blues, the saxophone in Deacon Blues, just it's so moving. Um, I could listen to Steely Dan all day long. I just love that band. So anyway,
All right. My number 10,
number 10.
Fallout Boy. That is my number 10. Sugar, we're going down. Centuries. I mean, come on. Come on. The first album that I heard from Fallout Boy was from Under the Cork Tree. And I just remember playing that album over and over and over again because I really loved the dude's vocal. He could pierce right through the center while having really heavy riffs in the back. And the drumming was always killer, always killer. So that's who I have as my number 10.
Beautiful. My number 9, and quite honestly, this is all because of my patrons. My number 9 is Avenged Sevenfold.
Oh, good choice.
I tell you what, never really got into them that much. Matter of fact, I just don't listen to a lot of new rock music. A lot of it seems arbitrary to me. A lot of new music, it just seems like they're just going through the motions instead of creating something fresh and innovative.
Okay, yeah.
It to me, it just seems like a lot of rock music today is just working off of what happened yesterday. And if you're gonna do that, that's fine, but I'll just listen to yesterday then.
Right. Then just listen to the old stuff, right?
Right. Listen to the originals, and so anyway, but Avenged Sevenfold, I listened to, I think, all but one of their albums now. Um, Hail to the King is my favorite. I know that's not everybody's favorite, but it's my favorite. And a second favorite is probably The Stage. So yes, I appreciate the later stuff, but they've got other albums that are just phenomenal. And I love Matt Shadow's voice, his vocal, his screams are incredible. They're blood curdling screams. And meanwhile, he's got a lot of tonal range when he sings. He's got an incredible voice. You know, the screams, that's great, and that's very metal, right on, love it. But you got to bring something else for me,
Right.
and his vocal prowess, his range is very immense. And he's got great tone in his voice at that. Sinister Gates, phenomenal songwriter, riff writer, and phenomenal guitar player. And the Rev, Jimmy Sullivan, R.I.P. He died some years back here. I don't know. I've had to say 10 years ago now, probably. Maybe a little bit longer than that. Actually, yeah, because I think Nightmare, the album Nightmare, which is sick too. I think that came out in 2010. So yeah. So anyway, love that band, and I'm so glad that my patrons turned me on to them, because it was a new band that, quite frankly, I didn't want to spend the time to get to know.
Right.
Until I kind of had to.
Had to get to know him.
Yeah. But I'm so glad that I did. And I'll tell you, it's a rarity, because my patrons have brought me a lot of stuff that I don't like.
Yeah.
And everybody knows I keep it real, man. And I'm not going to bullshit you and tell you I like something that I don't like. And
Yeah.
the fact is that most of the stuff that I've heard, I don't really care for that much. But there have been some bands, and another one is with Mark Tremonti and Alter Bridge. Alter Bridge, really like that band a lot too. And that came from my patrons. But Avenged Sevenfold, so glad I got to know that band, because I'm a big fan now.
Yeah, they're really dope. I like them. My number 9 is actually really close to Avenged Sevenfold in sound. 3 Days Grace is my number 9. Very much like Avenged Sevenfold with their heavy sound, and it's good to get your teen angst out. You know what I mean? Shake all that shit out.
That's what metal's for, man. It's
exactly, man. Their self-titled album was fucking amazing. 3 Days Grace, 1X, Life Starts Now. I mean, they have a lot of great albums and great fucking songs from each one. Never Too Late, Animal I Become, Pain. I mean, so many great tracks.
I listened, not to cut you off there, but I listened to one of my, I think it was a YouTuber or a patron, brought me Animal I Have Become. And actually, I listened to that song a lot.
Oh, man, it's so great.
On my motorcycle. Man,
yeah.
I love, like, Avenged Sevenfold and Animal I Become from 3 Days Grace. there's a lot of newer bands that I listen to on my
Right.
bike because I love listening to metal on my bike. Not that I don't listen to rap and hip hop on my bike.
Right.
It's just when I'm on the open road.
When you're on the road,
you
man.
know,
Yeah.
open that bitch up and I want it screaming. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
Well, you know what? You put on that whole album, The Animal I Becomes on. It's on 1X. That whole album is amazing. Riot is on there. Never Too Late is on there. Pain is on there. It's a fantastic album. That album is probably my favorite from the group. But yeah, 3 Days Grace. I could not have them not on my top 10 with how much I listened to them as a 15-year-old. All
right on.
right,
During
man.
those past years. Okay.
Yeah, that's right.
Number 7 for me. Wait, 8.
8.
Number 8 for me. Pantera. Okay. Pantera was a band that when they first came out, I wasn't terribly into them. I was actually much more into Metallica at the time, which I'm going to tell you guys right now, Metallica is not in my top 10. So, yeah, but
that's surprising for me.
Yeah, I'm sure it's going to surprise a number of people, but Pantera was one of those bands that when they first came out, there were certain songs that I really liked. The song Cowboys from Hell, for example, which is on their album Cowboys from Hell, and Cemetery Gates is on that album. And I love those songs, but then there are some songs on there, it's just too fast for me. I don't like speed metal, and I like something with a groove to it. And Cemetery Gates has a groove. Cowboys from Hell has a groove, man, like big time groove. And so, yeah, as time went on, I started following them a little bit more, but then by the time Far Beyond Driven came out, I went out and I bought that as soon as it was released, and I listened to it front to back, and I fell in love with that album immediately. It's so sonically big. It's remarkable that they were able to capture all of that sound on a single album.
Yeah.
That I can't express to you how big of a sound that Far Beyond Driven is. And once I heard that, I became a huge Pantera fan. And then, Drag the Waters and Walk and all of those songs, man, they had to be in my top 10. So there you go. Number 8, Pantera.
All right. My number 8 is thanks to my wife. She listened to these guys since she was a teenager. Her teen angst band was The Used, and they're on my top 10. I love The Used, man. Their very first. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, my oldest son, that's one of his favorite bands.
Oh, man. Dude, I fucking love them. And it's something about his writing. They love to do this thing where he'll start talking about a subject, and mid-sentence, he'll start talking about something else. Like he'll say so-and-so and you, and then he'll just switch on to another subject, and he won't even finish his previous sentence. And it kind of became a thing for them, and a thing. If you really, really listen to it, it's really interesting that he does it. And it's
very assuredly, I've never heard a song from them.
Oh, wow. Yeah. I tell you what, I Caught Fire would be a great first song for you to listen to. It's on their first album that came out in 2004. It's called In Love and Death is the album. It's a fantastic album and a great introduction to the band. So solid. One of my favorite albums is one of their newer ones called Imaginary Enemy, or they had a song called Kenya Song in there. So solid. Very different from their usual stuff. It's really toned down, more acoustic kind of feel to it. But then they get real heavy with Cry. And it's a great band. I never really liked, I classify them as emo as fuck, right? Never really liked those kind of bands just because the tone of voice sometimes can really get in the way of a good song. Oh, sure. When you sound too whiny for me, it gets in the way of the song.
Maroon 5.
That's a good one. You know what? They have great grooves, right? Horrible. That vocal, I can't do it. But yes, The Used on my list because no matter the tone, it's great vocals behind it and solid writing behind it too. So The Used is my number 8.
Well, it's ironic that vocal came up because my number one band, um, that's always been the biggest complaint on this band. But
Oh,
yes, I will save that for last, obviously. But
all right.
number 7 for me um, is a band called Down. And I'll be honest with you, and this probably is going to surprise DZAN that it's this low on the list because Down, I when I started this list out, I thought I'd have them in my top 3 for sure. But
I was just gonna say you talk about Down a lot.
yeah. But the reason is it's twofold. Is one is I was trying to squeeze in more than because it was a rock metal thing. So I
Mhm.
wanted to kind of get some rock stuff in there
Right,
with the
right, right.
metal. So that a couple of bands got bounced down a little bit because of that and things
Got
like
you.
that. So at any rate, however, Down, uh, it's ironic that this is coming off the heels of Pantera because the lead singer for Down was the lead singer for Pantera before Dimebag Darrell was killed. Um, and uh, the guitar player and the primary songwriter in the band, his name is Pepper Keenan. He also happens to be the guitar player, primary songwriter, and lead singer for another band called Corrosion of Conformity. Down, the band started very organic. It's known as a super group. Um,
Mm.
Obviously, I mean, you've got Pepper Keenan from Corrosion
I was
Conformity,
just gonna say because it's
songwriter,
from
right?
big bands. Right, right, right. Okay.
Right. And then the drummer, Jimmy Bauer, he's from I Hate God. And then the other guitar player, Kirk Winstein, is from a band called, uh, damn it, it'll come to me. Anyway,
It's
they're
always
all
after.
from, yeah, they're all from New Orleans. And what happened was Katrina happened. And
Okay.
they all went home to be with their loved ones. But Pepper owns a bar there. He wanted to make sure his bar was okay. Phil Anselmo has several businesses there. So everybody went back home to kind of tidy up their lives a little bit, check on their family. And during that process, Phil and Pepper got together and they say, "Hey, let's just jam out a little bit here. You know, keep our chops warmed up or whatever."
Right.
Well, they wrote a couple songs together, and then so then he's like, let's get Jimmy over here, play some drums, and see what this does. So they made a 4-track demo, and Pepper went back to Corrosion of Conformity, and they're touring over in Germany. And this German kid walks up, and Pepper Keenan is known as a tape trader. He loves to check out underground bands and stuff like
Oh,
that.
okay.
So this fan walks up to Pepper and he hands him this tape. He says, "Pepper, you got to check this band out, man. You're going to love them. I swear it. The guitar player sounds just like you playing guitar." So Pepper pops it in a tape player, and lo and behold, it's the 4-track recording that they had did. And so he calls up Phil and he's like, "Phil, you're not going to believe this. Somehow this kid got a copy of this," and he said it sounded like it'd been dubbed over 50 times. He said it
Right.
was barely audible. He said, but he says, "Listen," and he puts his phone up to the boom box and he says, "Do you hear that?" And he says, "Is that ours?" And he said, "Yeah." So that somehow this kid got a copy of their
How
4-track
the hell
recording.
did that happen?
He has no
Wow.
idea. So, but that's how this stuff happens, and that was
Right.
back in the day of Napster and LimeWire and and all
Oh
that stuff.
man, I miss me some LimeWire.
Right on. So, what they think happened was is somehow that 4-track recording got uploaded, and then
Right.
once it gets uploaded,
Any torrent sites. Hello,
exactly,
sharing.
yeah,
Share to
exactly,
you. You get one. You get one. You get one.
right on. So, at any rate, um, Down is just one of those bands that just gets me going, man, and um, they have a very, very wide range, even though they're a pretty heavy Southern metal, sludge metal, doom metal type band. Um, they are a bit eclectic themselves. they do veer off acoustically sometimes, and they do all kinds of different vibey stuff too. But everything that they do seems to have a groove, and that's the thread here, right?
Mm-hmm.
And DZAN knows what I'm talking about here. This is what we believe is the reason that I had such an easy transition into rap and hip hop, because
Right.
of bands like Pantera, bands like Down, the very groove oriented. And when I first started listening to rap and hip hop, I'm listening to Dre, I'm listening to Snoop, I'm listening to The Game, all of these G-Funk
Mm-hmm.
mainstays. And what is it all about? It's all about that groove. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that that's why it was such an easy transition for me. But
Right.
anyway, Down, number 7.
Down is also my number 7. Shine Down.
You got me.
Look, the Sound of Madness album is up there for me as one of my favorite rock albums. I fucking love Sound of Madness, that song in particular. But Call Me is it's my favorite Shine Down song, but just one of my favorite songs to listen to. It is such a deep fucking song, and he has such a unique voice that I just always loved. You would like to hear a ballad, but then you also want to hear him yelling. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
it's really good. He's got that solid tone. I love it, man. And their choruses, it's that catch. You know what I mean? It's so catchy for me. You know what I mean? It gives it that replayability. But Shine Down has always been something that I listened to when I was younger. But that album in particular, like, I just kept listening to throughout the years. So they're up there for me, and at number 7, deservedly so, Shine Down.
Right on. Number 6, I had to get this band in here. Had to. Led Zeppelin. I know it's well before your time. Matter of fact, it's almost before my time a little.
Yeah, I was gonna say they're really old, man.
Yeah, but they were a band that when I first started getting into rock music, that was like everybody's favorite band at the time. Everybody.
Yeah.
And I own every album they have. I've wrecked and ruined every album, quite frankly.
Yes.
I don't even listen to them that much anymore, to be honest with you.
Right.
Primarily because I've just listened to them too many times now. When I hear Stairway to Heaven on the radio, I have to turn it. I can't.
Yeah.
I never want to hear that song again the rest of my days. With that said, they have got to be in everybody's top 10.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody that's my age or older.
Right.
You'd have to have Led Zeppelin in your top 10. There's a few bands that really have to be there that aren't in mine.
Yeah, right.
Again, that's because of having to swap some stuff out and things like that. But at any rate, so there you go, Led Zeppelin.
All right, my number 6, Aerosmith, Dream On. Look, the Get a Grip album, and I don't know if it's just because that's from my time, right? That's my favorite Aerosmith album, hands down. I fucking amazing. Flesh, Boogeyman. I fucking love. Yes, it was. Yeah. I fucking love that album, and then of course the classics, Dream On. I don't want to miss a thing, but Aerosmith, and you talk about that classic fucking rock voice. Look no further.
Tyler, man. Yes,
look no fucking further, man.
Great screamer too, man.
Yes. So rangy, so fucking rangy. And of course the great writing behind it, the fantastic writing behind it.
Joe Perry and Steven Tyler, they wrote all of Aerosmith's music. And you're right, they are phenomenal songwriters.
Yeah, Get a Grip. I mean, I just can't. I fucking love that album so much. It's my favorite. Yeah. Oh my god, yeah. I fucking love that album. Yeah. But yeah, I mean,
Living on the Edge on that one too.
No, I don't believe so.
Okay. Okay.
I don't believe. Oh, actually, you know what? It was on that album.
Yeah.
It was on that album. Yeah.
I knew it was around that time, but I wasn't 100% sure, but I know I have that album. But yeah, that's
Yeah, and whenever Eminem sampled for Sing for the Moment, oh my god, man,
well,
that
don't
was
forget
such a good.
Walk This Way with Run DMC.
Yeah, oh my god, how could
That
you forget
started,
Walk
yeah,
This
that
Way with
started
Run DMC? Yep.
everything off, man. I mean,
Yep.
really, you
With
think
the
about it,
sampling
that's
of
what
yep.
set everything in motion was that moment in time.
Yep.
I'm so happy that I lived during that time, even though I
Yeah.
wasn't into that. Looking back on it, I realized what an epic moment in music
Right.
history that was.
What about Sir Mix-a-Lot's Iron Man?
Oh yeah,
Was that
yeah.
that man
Yeah.
funky, man? I love that stuff, man. But Aerosmith, number 6, not right in the top 5, but just sitting outside it, waving high.
Good.
Who's your number 5? Let's get into the top 5, Dirty.
The kings of doom metal.
Oh shit.
Black Sabbath.
Okay. Oh my god, Black Sabbath.
Gotta have Black Sabbath in there, man. I
What
mean,
is it? Pigs? Is it Pigs? Is that
War
the name of
Pigs.
the More Pigs?
War
Oh
Pigs.
my god, War Pigs. Yes.
And Iron Man and
Oh my god.
So many weed songs.
Yes.
But yeah, then they had a song called Black Sabbath, which is my personal favorite song.
Okay.
And yeah, I just Black Sabbath they were the godfathers and grandfathers and fathers of heavy metal music. There was nothing remotely that sounded like Black Sabbath when Black Sabbath did what they did.
Mm-hmm.
The next closest band to Black Sabbath was Judas Priest, and they didn't come along until almost 10 years after Sabbath.
Painkiller.
I mean, they're just so innovative, and I just don't think they get the credit they deserve, man, for being the pioneers that they were. Time will show that eventually people will start paying attention to that more as the years go on.
Right.
Because there's really nothing else to point to when it comes to heavy metal music. The closest you're going to get is bands like Led Zeppelin. That's those. It's Pink Floyd. They're hard rock, but they're nowhere near metal.
Right.
Very, very vastly different genres of music, and Black Sabbath was doing it, and nobody even tried to do it while Black Sabbath was doing all of this. It wasn't until 10 years later Judas Priest came along, and then Iron Maiden, Queensryche, and all these bands started coming along after the fact. But the originals, the OGs, Black Sabbath, man.
Yeah.
Number 5.
I love Black Sabbath, man. All right, number 5.
Ozzy.
Green Day is my number 5. The American Idiot album was the anthem for my generation, I believe. Really, that one and Nimrod for me are probably tied for their best album, their first album, Nimrod.
I had that. Yeah, I owned that
Good Riddance is one of my favorite songs of all time. Time of Your Life, Good Riddance. Yeah. Fantastic album, but American Idiot.
That song was in so many TV shows and
My graduations and
yes.
Oh my god, yeah, it was everywhere. Every class of 99 had Time of Your Life as their graduation song.
Right.
Or fucking Vitamin C. You remember Vitamin C?
Yeah.
I can't remember that song, but yeah. Anyways, Green Day, amazing. Wake Me Up When September Ends, Boulevard of Broken Dreams. I mean, it goes on and on, but that album in particular, I mean, they were fucking killing it.
Geek Stink Breath. What was the other one on that album? They had Geek Stink
Breath. Yes.
Oh shit. I'm having trouble trying to sleep. I'm counting sheep but running out. What's the name of that fucking song?
Is that Scattered?
By, still I cry. No rest for cross-toss in my mind. On my own, here we go.
Is that All the Time?
No, fuck, I can't think.
Kind of sounds like All the Time.
I know the whole song, I just can't think of.
but dude,
Anyway,
it's literally been about a decade since I've heard Nimrod. But
me too.
it's been so long. It's definitely up there for me. American Idiot 2 up there for me. I fucking love those two albums in particular, but Green Day has always just been so great. And again, when you think about voices, he just has a really unique tone, a really unique voice that you just kind of gravitate to listening. It's just a really nice listen.
Yeah, well, I mean, they started out really as a punk rock band for
Yeah,
the most part, and
yeah,
which is really cool because punk rock is really the most metal of metals there is when it comes to attitude and
right.
society and all of that stuff. So yeah, right on, good pick.
All right, now we're getting to the nitty gritties.
Yes,
Who's your
we
number
are.
4?
Number 4, Alice in Chains.
Oh,
So
great.
yeah, Lane Staley happens to be my favorite vocalist of all time. Um, he did a side project with a band called Mad Season, and
Hmm.
it was the guitar player from Pearl Jam, and then a bass player from another band and drummer from another band. It was a super group,
Hmm.
but that was the most moving musical masterpiece I have ever listened to in my life. It's an
Wow.
album called Above, Mad Season. And I know I'm supposed to be talking about Alice in Chains, but this was during the heyday of Alice in Chains, and Lane Staley, obviously, his well-known heroin addiction, and
Hmm.
the entire album of Above um, was all about that. And when you listen to it, it just encapsulates everything about Lane Staley, and you feel it from the first bass line note in the song, the original song or the title track called Above, and all the way through to the end. You just feel all of his emotion. It's just an incredible piece of music. But Jerry Cantrell, who is the guitar player and primary songwriter for Alice in Chains, incredible songwriter. Uh, One of those people I don't think gets enough credit for his riff writing, his
Mm.
songwriting, his own vocal prowess. He's in his own right. He's a great vocalist, but when you have Lane Staley in your band, you let Lane Staley sing. Um, Lane Staley is by far the most powerful vocalist I have ever heard in any genre of music ever. It's so emotional. And when you can evoke that kind of emotion with music, uh, I'm all in. I'm all in. And I did a song. It's a song called Heart and Soul, and it so the guy that I did the song with, he wrote the song. I just played along, but he lives 3 doors down to this day. He lives 3 doors down from Lane Staley's mom,
Mm.
and they're very good friends. And she approached Randy and asked Randy if she would write a song for him. So he did, and I ended up being fortunate enough to play guitar on this song.
Oh,
And
wow.
yeah, it's a song called Heart and Soul. I thought I shared that over on Patreon. Maybe not. I'll have to look into that. But it was a song that was wrote about his life, and it went over very well, and we got a lot of really good feedback on that song from some really heavy hitters. Zach Wild, um, uh, obviously Lane's mom was very pleased. Uh, there's a guy who plays with Zach Wild in the band Black Label Society. He also played in the song. He played piano and bass in the song. Um, it was just a very, it was probably the pinnacle of my career, if you will, in music.
Right.
It was definitely the pinnacle moment for me. I'd never played anything near that big before or
Right.
since, and it was such an honor. But the band itself, from Facelift, their first album, Dirt, Jar of Flies, Sap, all of these albums are just monsters. They're monsters. The album Dirt is my personal favorite. Um, there's not one song on there that is not epic. Every single song on there is just epic.
Mm.
And if anybody ever wants to listen to an Alice in Chains album, listen to Dirt. It's a masterpiece. So that's where I got. That's my number 4.
All right. Number 4, Matchbox 20. This is my number 4. Again, something I listened to as a kid a lot. My mom had, this playing all the damn time. And I grew up really loving the album, Yourself for Someone Like You. Back to Good is probably like my favorite song from them. Bent 2 from their album Mad Season. It's also really, really good. But that album in particular, one of my favorite lyrics in music. What? Go ahead. You look at it, you're going to say something.
It's funny you said that about Mad Season, because when Mad Season first came out, when you Googled Mad Season, that came up.
Right.
It was hard to find Mad Season's
Mad
album.
Season. Right.
Yeah.
Instead, you found Matchbox 20,
Matchbox
Mad
20,
Season.
Matchbox 20's Mad Season. And it was hard to find it because of that.
Well, see, and that's held as one of their best ones.
Yeah.
Was that one? I find their first one as their best, but it's up there, man. Mad Season is definitely up there. And one of my favorite lyrics in music history comes from that album, the song 3 a.m., where he says, she thinks that happiness is a mat that sits on our doorway. Again, one of those lines that says so much in so little. It's so powerful, and you can read it 1,000 different ways. That's what I love. That's right there, the epitome of lyric writing, and how you can really make your words a lot more powerful than just, putting them on the paper. So right, Matchbox 20 right there, number 4. This is a big one, Dirty. This is a big one. Number 3, brother.
Number 3.
What do you got?
Van Halen.
All right.
Van Halen absolutely has to be in my top 3. When I first moved to the inner city, I was just turned 12 years old. And quite frankly, I was struggling, because I wasn't used to that life at that time. And I moved to a very rough area from suburbia, USA. And it was a serious culture shock. And one of those things that got me through was music. And as a matter of fact, 2 of my top 3 favorite bands were from that era, because it's really what kind of brought me through a lot of pain. But I found a friend, we became fast friends when I first moved over there. And his dad would go out of town a lot. They'd have keg parties. And every single keg party, you have to have Van Halen on to have the girls come. So we were always playing Van Halen albums. And I have so many memories. I can remember exactly where I was sitting on the couch one time when Running with the Devil came on. Or, and all of those things. To this day, it just takes me back there right away. And Van Halen is the band. There was no other band when it came to women and meeting women and having parties where you want to invite women. And, there was this Catholic girls' high school in town, and there were several, but there was this one particular one and I don't want to say the name of it, but w- I'm just going to move on here. But um, yeah, it could get me in trouble. But anyway, so yeah, whenever you had a keg party and or you were just having a good time, you always threw on Van Halen,
Yeah.
either Van Halen 1 or Van Halen Fair Warning, something like that. And it just always brought a good time. It was always about fun. And that's when rock music was about having fun. Now it's kind of depressing, you know.
Yeah.
But back then it was a party. I mean, and Van Halen was the party of the party, you
Yeah.
know. So yeah, big influence in my life in many ways.
That's what's up, man. All right. I think my number 3 is not only going to surprise you, but probably everybody else. Hooty and the Blowfish
Wow.
is my number 3.
Wow.
And it was almost my number 1. It was hard. It was my number 1 when I started this list, and it moved down a couple notches. But
Right
I
on.
cannot begin to tell you the impact that Hootie and the Blowfish had on my listening as a child.
Mhm.
Cracked Rear View is definitely in top 10 albums of all time for me, hands down. But more so than that, the songs on that album, again, when you think about things that can just snap you back and take you back, there's so many memories I have just listening to a song. That's what I can go to.
Right on.
Not Even the Trees was a song when I lived out of state for a little while. That was a song that felt like I was closer to home.
Mhm.
It's one of those bands that you go to, when you need to kind of vent out a little bit and you need that. It's almost medicinal for me, and they are
Exactly.
definitely a medicinal band. Not Even the Trees is hands down my favorite song from them. But even, what is it? I think it's Looking for Lucky. Fantastic fucking album as well. They have great albums. Darius Rucker himself, just on his
Very
own,
talented man. Yeah.
fucking
Yeah.
amazing singer. It
Songwriter.
just,
Yeah.
yes, Hootie and the Blowfish is up there for me at number 3. Yeah, there we go. A little surprising.
Yeah. Well, I can't hate on that. I mean, I get it. And my number 1, I'm going to talk about what you just talked about,
Yeah,
which is kind of what I talked a little bit about with Van Halen too, but even to a much greater degree. So I understand exactly where you're coming
yeah.
from with that. But my number 2 is a band that I just about guarantee nobody's heard of. It's a band called Corrosion Conformity. Now, Corrosion Conformity is the lead singer slash guitar player and primary songwriter is Pepper Keenan, who also plays guitar in Down. So that's really not much of a surprise there. However, in Down, he writes most of the music, but Phil writes a lot of the lyrics. Whereas in Corrosion Conformity, Pepper writes most of the lyrics and
Got you.
most of the music. Uh, but as I stated earlier, Pepper Keenan is one of those guys that, in my opinion, he's the greatest songwriter of our generation. Um, he has a way. He doesn't do the typical uh, two verses or excuse me, verse bridge chorus,
Mm,
verse bridge chorus outro. He doesn't follow that formula, and he does things his own way. And each song is different in that aspect. But some of the lyrics he comes up with absolutely blow my mind. And there's a song they do. It's called "Shake Like You," and "Shake Like You" is basically it's a song about God standing behind the wall. Matter of fact, he
Hmm.
pretty much says that in the song. He says, you know, he wants to stand behind the wall and just watch the games begin. And basically,
Mm,
what the song is about is the very first line is in the beginning, this world was swelled with mankind. And it just kind of, the song takes a trip from the beginning to where we're at now. And,
mm,
um, you know, you give a little information to this side and give a little information to that side, and then let
right.
them go at it and just kind of watch it
Watch
happen.
it happen.
Yeah,
Oh man. Wow.
it's deep, man. It's so fucking deep.
Wow.
And every song that he writes is like that.
Yeah.
His ability to, I mean, I put him up there with Tupac. I really do. His ability to tell a story is just incredible
Mm,
and so profound, so deep, so heavy, but yet comprehensive as hell. I mean, you get it right away. It's not
yeah.
something where you gotta wait. What's he saying? I mean, there's interpretations. Don't get it twisted. But as far as what he's trying to tell you, it's pretty sparkling. It,
Right.
it it's nothing you have to search for real deeply. So anyway,
All
what do you
right.
got? Number two.
Number two, this is my kind of sort of cheat, but not really, because I mean, you can't classify them as really anything because they are everything. 21 Pilots is my number two. From their self-titled album, they've done everything from punk to hip hop. I mean, they really are genre bending. Their first album, self-entitled 21 Pilots, was very emo in its writing and in its style. In its style, he did this really cool thing where he would kind of almost talk, and then he would scream. You know what I mean? It kind of gave it a
Jumping.
cool vibe to it, right? And then you really start seeing the growth with the music. Then Vessel came out, and it was completely different from their first album, and it gave fans a different sound. And what they wouldn't know then that we all know now is that this would become a trend for 21 Pilots, that don't ever expect the same thing on the next project.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something so beautiful to have from artists, bands that you listen to, is to just not get the same thing over and over. And then
You're kind of
you
describing
know
my number one right now.
oh well, beautiful, but then
Yeah.
it also is a double-edged sword, because you get albums like Blurry Face and you're like, oh my God, I just want more of that. Just
Right.
please give
Right.
me this. I just want this forever. You know what I mean?
Which again goes to my number
Again,
one. Yeah. Yeah.
um, and a lot of people would say Blurry Face is too overproduced, in the sense that it may be a little more hip hop than I think that a lot of them are used to, maybe in its sound. And then you get albums like Trench, which is a lot more rock heavy. And you get the song that Dirty listened to, which was very rock, very heavy on guitars, very heavy sounding. And then now you get Skeld and Icy, which kind of reminds me of an early 90s band, to be honest with you.
Hmm.
It's kind of grungy, but then it's almost folky, and then it's kind of poppy, like a rock pop band. They give you so many different kind of sounds, but it really puts you in a zone. The whole album kind of puts you in a zone of you're living it with them and you're just on the ride. That's the best thing for any album.
Yeah. It
But
is. Yeah.
I mean, I've only started listening to them 4 years ago, and um, I'm just hooked on everything that they've made and anything that they're going to be making in the future. Um, I fucking love 21 Pilots. So they are my number two. Again, almost number one. I switched them and Hooty, and then I was like, wait, what am I talking about? I know what number one is. Come on. Well, so
Okay.
let's get into it.
Let's do it. All right. My number one. I just tell you right now, it's Rush, and I'll tell you why. Um, so as I was saying earlier about, you know, that kind of culture shock that I was feeling, just my whole life was very uneasy. My parents, my stepmother and my dad had gotten a divorce. I don't need to get into all that, but it was a very, very difficult time for me. And, you know, just becoming a man and just so much going on. And then the neighborhood that I moved into did not take to new people very well.
Mm.
And that's how the story of Dirty began, quite frankly. And I got beat up every single day for almost 2 years.
Shit.
And but I never ever changed the way I walk home. Never once. Never altered it. And I took that ass whooping every day. But it is what it is. And but so what I did is every day I'd go home and I'd crying, wiping the blood off my face and all of that. And my dad had this armoire. And so just had the two, you know, opening doors like such. And then inside the armoire, I had these cheap little speakers, man. But I put them inside the armoire because it made it louder. And
yeah.
so I would sit in front of the armoire. I'd shut the doors as much as I could. I would close my eyes and I would listen to Rush because it always took me away from where I was.
Right.
And matter of fact, one of the main songs that I always leaned on the most was a song called Xanadu. And the song Xanadu is literally about traveling through space.
Mm.
And I went on that ride. I can't tell you how many times. And to this day, I hear that song and I get very emotional.
Right.
There's two songs from Rush, Xanadu and a song called Analog Kid. Analog Kid reminded me so much of myself. It was about a boy that, you know, wanted to have a normal life that couldn't.
Mm.
And he wanted, you know, he threw a rock. This kid threw a rock and it broke something. We don't know what it was. They never really said in the song, but he broke something. He got in trouble. And I wanted to be that kid.
Right.
So bad. I wanted to be that kid in that song so bad. And, but that was my escape.
Right.
And every day I took that ass whooping. I'd go the apartment and I'd shut the doors in an armoire and I would just play it as loud as it would go. I'd pump that thing to 10.
Yep.
And I would just, that was what got me through it.
Right.
And it was always Rush. It was always 100% of the time it was Rush that I listened to escape the hell that I was living in.
Right.
You know,
Right. Your
it
current
was,
reality. Yeah.
it
Yeah.
was hell. And it was something I'd never wish on anybody to ever have to go through, but I did have to go through it. And Rush is a big part of the reason why I was able to come out on the other side of it. So.
Right on, man. That's what's up. All right. I think everybody's been waiting for this one for my hot take on my number one, and it's Nickelback. No, of course I'm fucking with you. It's not Nickelback.
I was ready to end this fucking video right now. My patrons have one rule. Don't ever send me a fucking Nickelback song because I'll send it right back and it's
that was for Dirty right there. That was for Dirty right there. No, ladies and gentlemen. My number one is Disturbed.
Oh, okay.
Always has been, always will be my favorite rock band of all time. The Sickness classic rock album.
I'm not surprised by that at all. Not that I knew that was coming for sure, but you've told me before that you like them, but
yeah,
for the same reasons, it's got that groove. Even though it's heavy, it's got that groove.
And you know what? The first song, you would think the first song I ever listened would be Stupefy or Down with the Sickness. The first song I ever heard from them was Fear. And I don't know if you're familiar with that, but he does a rap in there a little bit where he's like, thinking that I might crack and I pull your hand back, some shit like that, and I might snap. And I was just like, oh shit. And then the guitars, and I was just lost. And my dad would play this in his truck as a kid. And then once I heard Stupefy, we'd always just replay. It would get to the point where when we got in the truck, he would start it at track 7, so it wouldn't be on Stupefy.
Oh.
But then Down with the Sickness, I heard replay. To where that whole album was just on a constant rotation in the car. But I mean, and it's everything beyond that. Indestructible, 10,000 Fists, Believe is up there with it as well. They just make amazing fucking music. It's heavy, but you listen to songs like Darkness, that's almost completely acoustic, and he has this. I don't know if you've ever. I'm sure you've heard of Halo, but that intro where it's like, oh, like the cathedral kind of sound, right? Hums.
Right.
He has that tone in Darkness, and he can bring out that tone. You know what I mean? Where it almost sounds like he's an opera singer almost. He has a very, very interesting, unique tone to his voice. And I've always loved them and will continue to listen to Disturbed forever and always. Number 1. And then Nickelback.
There you have it, people. Fuck you.
I was trying to think, the whole time too, what would be a great troll band that I could say, and no other band. The first one that popped in my head was Nickelback, and I was like, look no further. Look no fucking further.
You want to get my blood boiling? That's the one, man.
That's Nickelback, baby. Hey man, this was fun. I'm glad that I got to hear. I did not expect Rush, to be honest. I was expecting Down to be in your top 3, or Corrosion of Conformity, right? Mm-hmm. I thought that would also be in your top. Number 1, I thought would either be Down or Corrosion of Conformity. I didn't expect Rush, but it's great. Tom Sawyer is fantastic. Yeah, well, I love Rush.
Because when you were talking about 21 Pilots and wanting them to do that album again,
right?
That was Rush. The high pitched voice, right?
Yes, yeah.
People either love it or hate it usually,
right?
And then everybody in the world wanted them to remake the Moving Pictures album, which had Tom Sawyer and Limelight,
right?
And all of these songs, YYZ, but Rush never ever did that. Every single album was vastly different.
Right, gave you something new. Each time.
Every single time, and and I'll be honest with you. During the 80s, I mean, some of their albums I was just like, man, this is a yawn fest, man. I want to hear Tom Sawyer again, or The Spirit of Radio, or Free Will, or, Working Man. I want to hear these songs, but they never went that route again. But
right,
as the years went by, I was just like, I had an appreciation and a serious amount of respect, because what happened was with Rush is they were getting ready to do the 2112 album, which was their 4th studio album.
Okay.
Well, the record company was done with them. Mercury Records said, we're out. We need this album done, get it done. And it sounded like they were going to part ways with them. So Rush and they told Mercury Records, they said, listen, we need a hit. We need another Fly By Night or another Working Man on here. Well, so what do? The whole first side of the album was one song. It was 23 minutes long.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And they said, no, we're going on our fucking terms. You want to fucking cut her? Well, guess what? 2112 album sold millions. It went platinum.
I was going to say that's the one that really comes in my head as Rush is that album.
2112 Moving Pictures was their biggest selling one, but at that time, that Moving Pictures came well after that. But at the time, 2112 was their biggest selling album, and the record company, Mercury Records, they said, well, I guess we'll just ride this out. And from that point on, never ever try to tell Rush what to do.
Right. Learn the lesson pretty quick, huh?
Yeah, and then from
Hard learned lesson.
1982 on, Rush always toured by themselves.
Mm.
Never had an opening act. They always played for 2.5, 3 hours, and everybody they were just a fans band.
Yeah.
And so yeah, when you were talking about all that stuff, I'm like, man, he's describing Rush, man.
That's so funny. That's so funny.
So anyway, guys, so next week we are going to be doing our top 10 favorite
MMA fighters, UFC in particular.
UFC.
Top 10 UFC fighters next week. And I am so fucking excited for this one, man.
We're already working on it because it's going to be like all of these where it's in, goes in.
I know, man. Yep. Who stays off the list? Why? We're gonna have about 3 honorable mentions. Yeah. Yeah, you know what it is. You know what it is.
All right, everybody. We're out of here. We'll see you next week. Peace.
Peace out.